What up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. We are an MMA podcast. Let you know the MMA podcast you should catch, skip, and can't miss, as well as we try and check out some new shows. I am Pulver, and I am back yet again with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
First of all, I love the beer you just poured.
Yeah.
That is absolutely a great collaboration. I'll let you go ahead and let everyone know what that is.
Yeah, I'll get into it in a minute, but what you been up to?
Yeah. Just working, man. Just getting more. I got some more hours today. I got a really long shift for my coworker who was actually working Comic-Con today. That's
Nice.
a side thing, which I'm kind of jealous, because I used to go all the time in high school, initially just as a nerd when I was into that comic book stuff in middle school and all that. It was, it's fun seeing that shit. And now that it's more mainstream, man, it's so fucking difficult to even go. It's good. It's good for San Diego and all that. I like it, but yeah, I'm already coming up with a plan. How am I going to go next year? I think what I'm going to do is try to find someone there that needs a photographer or some sort of bullshit.
There you go.
Say, hey man, I'll take pictures of what you need pictures of. Cool.
That's the way to do it.
I thought this is the easiest way possible. So
yeah, I think girlfriend Karen's going tomorrow actually for I think she normally works staff for a day so that way she can get in and like basically does staff stuff for like a couple hours and then hangs out and runs around.
Saturday's the best day to go, so she's gonna
have some fun. Dude, Comic-Con used to be so like weird and small. Like I met Kevin Smith randomly and got him to sign a guitar pick. I talked to a lot of random people that I knew.
I remember I met Simon Pegg, such a cool guy, like on the floor. I met
back in the day. It used to be weird.
Tommy Lister, who plays Debo, met him on the floor.
He's actually around a lot.
Yeah, I met Tyrese Gibson one time. It's cool when you.
That was back when there was space on the floor.
Yeah, I remember I met Doug Benson one year, and that dude is always so high.
Yeah. He's a regular. He always does a show, I think, at the Tipsy Crow during Comic-Con. But anyway. What's dope is you just see people walking around. Evidently, one year, Bryan Cranston literally walked around a whole day wearing a Walter White mask. No one had any idea. I heard that.
I would do if I was a celebrity.
Brian Posehn, I think, walked around as something. I forget what. Not Chewbacca, but something like Chewbacca. Maybe it was just a generic Wookiee. I can't remember.
I was gonna say that, or probably I know what's common. It's like some sort of custom stormtrooper-ish.
Yeah, but he's like he'd be the tallest goddamn stormtrooper in history. Dude's like 6'5".
Yeah. So Chewbacca probably checks out.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. But anyway, why don't we start off with our Pop Bob Vodka presents Doug Stanhope presents our sponsors. I saw you were opening what has become a weird staple in Firestone's repertoire, which I still don't know why that beer is the one that took off, because it's probably one of my least favorites of theirs. It's still really good though.
It's because it's a blonde, and as the hipsters,
fucking people like blondes, I don't get it.
Beer drinkers call it. It's very crushable.
Yeah, all blondes are overrated.
So I'm gonna the old 805. I'll say this: if you're gonna brew a blonde, make it unique. I'm not trying to.
Good luck.
I'm not trying to pimp the brewery I work at, but we have a blueberry blonde, which is good because it's not too blueberry and it's smooth like a blonde. So,
and that's exactly the kind of beer you should fruit, because who was it? Was it Sam Adams that used to always do the strawberry blonde back in the day? That was
that was solid, man. And they also did a blueberry wheat, I think. Shouts out to Sam Adams too. They're technically
they have a cherry wheat actually that isn't too terrible.
That's what it was. And shout out to Sam Adams. They're still a microbrewery, I believe.
I don't know if they're micro. They're still craft.
Craft, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I think they might have hit that mid-tier range. Well, plus I think they just joined forces with Dogfish Head, which is really weird.
Ooh, I kind of like that though.
Maybe everybody's gonna get worse. Because Dogfish Head's been doing some good stuff lately, but they've also been like the Super 8 is pretty good, but they've been doing some weird stuff too.
So the one brewery that's sold that still I feel like has good integrity for their beer is Lagunitas, even though Heineken owns them. At least the new shit I've tried is fucking pretty solid. They had this
Yeah,
one
and
called
Lagunitas
Days Change.
was always just kind of Lagunitas. Like they are classic old school northwest IPA kind of brewery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool. So I am sipping on this week a collab between a couple fantastic breweries. Pizza Port, which is one of my favorites. Oh God, how do I get the glare off of that? There we go. Pizza Port, which is one of my favorites. And Modern Times, it is the Gentle Reminder.
Gentle Reminder. Yeah.
This fucking font does not help. It's like some Pac-Man-esque bullshit font. But I haven't had it before, but I've heard really good things. So I figured it was about time to try it.
I've had that beer. It is very good. I like it a lot.
Oh, that's a good session IPA. Super fresh, a little bit of pine, some like light citrus. It's just very refreshing. That's super good. So I'm glad I'm drinking that because it is warm as shit in here. So cool, man. Well, I guess this is not a beer podcast or a Comic-Con podcast, despite my best efforts. So why don't we go ahead and jump into format? Chris, why don't you start us off with the MMA podcast you recommend people catch this week?
So I have multiple catches like we usually do nowadays.
Me too, yeah.
First one is Submission Radio, and I think it was
really good episode.
Yeah, I had clicked on it mainly off of 2 interviews I want to listen to. The first one was Kevin Lee was on. Great interview with Kevin. He's in really good spirits right now. They had asked him, hey, how come you haven't been on social media in a good while? And he says because it was affecting his mental state and the way he just kind of just perceives how people think of him. And he says it just wasn't good for his mental health. He acknowledged didn't acknowledge the lack of mental health awareness in the sport, him growing into himself and not worrying about money, etc. He made some good points about that, which I appreciated because, yeah, you don't really see I'm sure there are fighters who brought attention to that, and I don't want to, I don't know their names specifically, but I know it's been brought to some attention. But I'm glad that he acknowledged that. I think it's important for the sport. It's important for a young fighter like him. I think he's only 26. The thing that excited me is that he decided to choose TriStar.
Which Joe Rogan must be very happy about since he was pimping TriStar so hard to Kevin Lee, and he's just a good fit for his skill set. He's got a very GSP.
Dude, he's got a he's very GSP-esque, and just his athleticism, his abilities. He's only 26.
Well, and he's a bright dude, and I think somebody like Faraz can really help him start like game planning. Like you put Faraz's game planning with Kevin Lee's skill set, I think it'll be solid. And thank God, I'm almost positive we won't see Kevin Lee roll for a fucking Imanari roll, which I'm very happy about.
That too. They asked him about who's the toughest matchup for you at welterweight right now. He said the champion Usman. Just based on how fucking huge he is. I think he's like 6'1", and just built just fucking huge. He thinks Ben Askren is the easiest since he's very hittable and one-dimensional. I mean, I can't necessarily disagree with that on the one-dimensional side because he's, his striking's not good.
Yeah, he's not even up to K1 Maya levels of striking.
Yeah, so Kevin Lee matches it well against Ben Askren. After that, Robert Whitaker, I took some notes on his interview. I really liked his. He's very candid. He talked about they said, what's it like? I think he was doing like the media rounds a couple weeks ago when he did like the press conference for, 241 or 242?
Yeah. One of those. It's the one that's supposed to be in Australia, but sounds like it's going to be in Vegas.
Oh, shit. Well,
October, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's October 5th. Anyways, he discussed his mindset in meeting other champions. He says he's not really a fan of meeting other fighters because he thinks it's – mostly because he says I have to fucking travel to Vegas. And he said that's annoying because I live in Sydney. Totally understand. He admits he's definitely a more reserved person. And he says when he meets other fighters, he just feels there's just like almost just unnecessary tension, even if it's like people acknowledging, hey, man, I like you a lot.
Which kind of makes sense.
He talks about spearfishing, his love for spearfishing. They discuss, hey, how come you don't really talk trash? So just because I don't talk trash doesn't mean I'm not taking this shit seriously. I know the ramifications. I treat every fight like it's my last fight ever, and I'm gonna fight to the absolute death. I'm not fucking around.
He also said at one point during that he stopped eating Mexican food and led up to the Kevin Gastelum fight. He said Kevin loved Mexican food, so fuck that shit. Which is the craziest person move ever.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because we live in Southern California, and that was like the third of my goddamn diet.
I probably eat Mexican food nowadays, like at most twice a month, because whenever I do eat Mexican food, I feel tired and there's a lot of lack of energy, and I just want to just take a nap or die. So that's why I don't usually eat Mexican food.
3 taco shops within, like, God, probably not even half a mile away from here. Oh, it's literally just in every direction. There's a solid taco shop.
East County, San Diego is a good location for Mexican taco shops in general. So
yeah, it's pretty good.
There's no shortage of them there. Bobby doesn't know why everyone thinks he's a nice guy. He says the difference between not being a dickhead and being a nice guy. I see what he's talking about there. I mean,
he is also just a nice guy, though.
Yeah, he's just there's nothing wrong with being a nice guy. I don't know if he takes offense to it, but I don't know if he likes that perception based on he's a fighter and that maybe he should be more macho man or an asshole or whatever, you know.
Robert has a weird view of himself. I'm starting to realize over time, especially like when you hear how he hated the nickname Bobby Knuckles, but loved the nickname The Reaper that he gave himself. You're like, dude, have you met you? Because yes, you're a great fighter. No, the nickname The Reaper does not fit as well as Bobby Knuckles, bro.
It's just generic. I mean, if I'm in this position, yeah, you shouldn't really give a fuck what other people think. Yeah, you should care about your peers and your family and your close friends. And, the guy is married. He has children or a child. He has children. I think he has 2 kids. I mean, the guy he's a big video game nerd. Admittedly, yeah, he's doing it what the fuck he wants, and you can't knock him for that. Who cares if he's nice? I don't think anyone's going to judge you for that. Maybe someone who's insecure, I guess. I don't know. If you're especially if you're a mixed martial arts professional fighter and you could fucking end someone's life with your bare hands and a keyboard where I would not give a single fuck of what some asshole who comments on my social media has to say. Like, this is no point.
Right?
Yeah. And if it does, yeah, you do like what Kevin Lee said, you just fuck off social media for a while. Yeah. And just gather, just gather yourself.
Did you catch during that interview that Dennis at one point calls it anime instead of anime?
Yeah, I was very confused. I'm like,
it's the best. Fucking Casper and
Whitaker this whole time I thought it was called anime. And I'm like, what?
So good.
I was
speaking of Comic-Con.
Or no, I think it was Dennis. No, Dennis
was it Dennis?
It was Dennis.
You're right. It was Dennis. It was totally Dennis. You're right.
Yeah. Then he goes real quick to then he says, yeah, just don't be a shit person in life. He says a lot of fighters are focused too much on talking shit rather than improving the sport. He thinks Israel's been mouthy because it got him the interim title shot, and props to him for that. And if he has to sell the fight, all the power to him. He says he doesn't think it's a fucking game since we're definitely not friends. He says he does not give a shit if Adesanya considers himself the real champ. It is what it is. He said, yeah, dude, go do your thing, sell the fight. He says he gives his thoughts on facing John Jones. He gives his thoughts on John Jones welcoming Robert to a training camp. He thinks it would be cool that John would consider that. So that's what I have for my notes on Submission Radio.
Yeah, I think that was episode 193. It was really solid. Also on that episode was John Anik called in at the beginning, talk about what's next for Faber and Whitaker versus Adesanya. Aljo Skyped in and talked about Faber's win and how he didn't think Faber was going to be this irrational with one win.
Wait, really? Color me surprised.
I think he was hoping that Uriah was not just going to fuck over his boy Benavidez, who clearly deserves the shot. So,
Uriah Faber winning was the worst fucking thing that could happen to the bantamweight division.
Yeah, well, it's the worst thing that could happen to Uriah Faber, I think. I think the next fight for him is going to be bad, no matter who it is. I think he is in for some fucking trouble.
I don't know if it was coming event who I'll mention later. I think they said, well, if he wants his precious title shot, why don't you fight someone like Peter Yan?
Yeah, I heard Peter Yan mentioned. I heard Jimmy Rivera mentioned in the rematch. And I also heard the worst option of all for Faber, Marlon Moraes.
Yeah, and Marlon Moraes already tweeted at Faber.
Yeah.
AKA, hey, Uriah, you're a legend in the sport. Give me a free win.
Yeah, just like the ref gave Faber at the fights last week.
What do you think of that stoppage?
Not good. Not good. Not a good stoppage when you're pounding on the arms of somebody the entire time after you drop them, and the dude is still in the process of scrambling.
Went down on his. Oh, it's like, dude,
it wasn't as bad as the.
It wasn't going like this.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as the lad stoppage, but everything was just landing to the arms. I think there was one shot that got through.
By the way, I mean,
to be fair to Faber, he clipped him with the clean fucking right hand.
Oh yeah, to the temple. But I don't want to say I called it because that's bullshit. I already said GDR would win by first round knockout based on that weight cut, and I mean,
yeah. Well, I think we both had GDR last week.
We already know GDR hits hard as shit. And
people forget how bad she was fucking up Raquel Pennington, who is tough as goddamn nails. We'll get to later in the episode.
So, yeah, all I'll say on that is and
Aspen Ladd was getting lit up by Sajara.
Yeah, all I'll say is I absolutely can't wait for Jermaine Durandeme's rematch against Nunes. Well, I think it'll be competitive. I think it'll be more competitive what Holly Holm did to fucking Nunes. So.
Yeah.
At least now. So.
I agree. I think style matchup wise is more fun. I think Amanda probably fucking smokes her.
Oh, I'm never picking against Amanda at this point.
No, there's no reason to. I would take Amanda over fucking the world right now. But I've been high on Amanda Nunes for a while. Anyway, so yeah, Submission Radio episode 193 was real solid. Let's see. I'll jump into one of my catches for this week. I'll do the obvious one. So we taped the show Friday morning last week, and I believe it was late Thursday when Joe Rogan dropped JRE MMA show episode 70 with Aljamain Sterling, which is a really fucking solid episode. They just kind of talk about everything. They talk about seeing the Askren KO, and Aljo thought to him, he said, "Oh man, I know how that shit feels after the Marlon knockout," which was really funny. They talk about Amanda's crazy ass KO of Holly and how bantamweight's just fucking on fire, and especially in the men's division. How much of a beast Marab is, and Aljo talks a bit about how since he has a degree in some kind of I always forget what his degree is in. If you listen to his podcast, he talks about it quite a bit.
He's very articulate. So
yeah, he has a degree in some kind of like physical therapy, strength and conditioning kind of thing.
Like kinesiology, probably
something like that. Out of probably I don't forget where in New York, but somewhere in New York. So he talks about how he uses a lot of that to build his strength. A funny story which does not surprise me. Oh yeah, one time he told me about that crazy dictator in Chechnya. Like he just told Biden to fight, just like one of his guys, which is a super move. That's a super Durov move, and it's fucking crazy that type of shit. And Fabricio Verdum are probably doing that shit. So fucking crazy, and shame on all of those motherfuckers for going over there. Aljo also. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, man. At that point, you just want a fucking paycheck, and you don't give a shit.
Yeah, you want a paycheck at the cost of gay people's lives. Congrats, bro. Yeah. History's gonna look super kindly upon those kinds of decisions. Let's see.
It's a shame to tell you. It's fucking stupid. So.
Well, yeah, it's the kind of shit that 30 years from now you look like the Nazi boxers back in the 40s and shit. Like it's not a good fucking look. No. Let's see. So he talks about how he tore a ligament in his thumb during the last fight. And how he's wearing like kind of, I don't think it was in a cast. I think it was just in a wrap. But and it'll be interesting to see how that heals. Then they actually at the end of the episode watch the John Howard KO of Ray Cooper III in PFL live, which was fucking a great reaction from both of them. So yeah, just a really fun episode overall. I'm sure most people caught it. But if you haven't heard a lot of Aljamain Sterling, like if you don't listen to Weekly Scraps, which I need to listen to more of, I try and catch that show as much as I can, but I just need to catch it more often because it's really good. But it's just a great example of why Aljamain Sterling is ultra personable and a lot of fun. I really like the guy. And yeah, great podcast guest and host.
What's the name of his podcast again, too? And I can't remember.
The Weekly Scraps.
That's right. Yeah, I want to listen to that. I think maybe like twice, so I definitely have to get back into that for sure.
Yeah, it's a really solid one.
That's my fucking problem. Every time I try to look for like new podcasts, I don't know how to fucking look about it anymore, except for like Googling.
Well, pro tip to anyone listening, if you're looking for new shows, every single week I put any podcasts that we talk about that are on YouTube. I try to put them all in a YouTube playlist with the episode number, so that way you can track it that way. You can actually even see what I'm going to be talking about on the show. And that's just on our YouTube channel, The Sound of Violence. Or as always, MMApodcast.com is the greatest resource and my go-to. So, something to keep an eye on if you're looking for new shows to check out. So, Chris, you said you had another catch this week?
Yeah, it is the A-Side live chat is my other catch.
Nice. I didn't catch this one.
Danny Segura joined them.
Oh, wow. Nice.
The first thing he talked about is who should Henry Cejudo's first fight be when he's back from coming from shoulder surgery, and who should be his first fight. Or no, they said who is Cejudo's first fight going to be, but who should be his first fight. They both agree it should be Joseph Benavidez at flyweight. Then they think you might as well do Peter Yan versus Sterling for the interim belt.
Ooh, that's a hell of a fight.
This kind of makes sense. Interim belts, it makes sense, I guess, more or less when there's a double champ, whatever you want to call it, because like they have their obligations to the other division too, so it's going to be held up regardless.
Fuck that. If there's a double champ, then they should drop the belt. If there's an interim fight, injury is the only reason for an interim belt.
I agree. Yeah,
and even then, it should be injury where they're out for a year.
Yeah, a year.
Like Robert Whitaker is like barely on the edge of allowable interim, and even then, it's like you probably could have waited 3 fucking months.
Yeah, and like I just mentioned to you, Uriah Faber is a massive wrench in those plans. It is not good for the division. The UFC is all about selling fights, so of course they're going to give him a shot. Brock Lesnar got a title shot in his third UFC fight. To be fair, Brock Lesnar was already a massive WWE star, and that was way back when, in 2009. So then again, it's not too much different now. It's all about show business and prize fighting, if you want to call it that. Uriah is still a name in that division, which I'm not saying he shouldn't be. He's a Hall of Famer. He did great things for WEC and for the smaller weight classes, with his reputation and all of that. Okay, so then they talked about lightweight. They said they're both banking on Khabib beating Dustin. Danny Segura thinks that Khabib versus Tony after that would be for the title of best ever lightweight, based on Ferguson's run, which you can make an argument for that. Look at the fuck he's beaten.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. There's been so many fucking good lightweights.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think dudes like Hughes and
Hughes was a welterweight, right? Well, I guess it is tough.
Hughes, I think, started. Didn't he started? Was he always a welterweight?
I think he was always a welterweight.
He might have always been a welterweight. I might be mixing him up with Penn, since Penn and Sarah both like fucking bounce back and forth around there.
Penn was mostly a lightweight, at least in the UFC. I know he did welterweight.
Yeah,
too.
But I mean, Penn's run at 155. Pulver, obviously I'm biased, had a good run at 155.
He beat like guys that are originally welterweights, because technically that's what lightweight initially was. It was like welterweight. They called it lightweight. You could throw in Anthony Pettis had a good run. Benson, Frankie Edgar. Look how far he was a
Frankie
bantamweight.
Edgar had a heck of a run.
Bantamweight. Yeah. And he didn't cut any. He cut zero weight. He just stepped in there.
Yeah,
against guys like twice his size.
Yeah, Eve Edwards also had a really good run at 155 back in the day. So
Yeah. So they're talking
It's
about
hard to
that.
argue though, just like strength of appearance for like the way Tony Ferguson and Habib win fights is fucking crazy and dominant in two very different ways, but two very like very fucking dominant ways.
Yeah, you can't argue against that. They quickly discussed Bellator 145, the featherweight Grand Prix tournament. I know some people wondering how Aaron Pico wasn't in there, but I think he's still like training.
I'm glad he's not in it. Number one, I don't think he'd do well against a lot of the dudes in it, and no, because he's just way too green. And number two, the amount of damage he's taking, I don't want to see him fight 3 times in a year. Like I don't want that. I think it's a way better idea not to have him in it. But there's some fucking bangers in that tournament, though.
Yeah, I know former bantamweight champion Darian Caldwell's facing off against Henry
Corrales, yeah, and then yeah, there's
AJ McKee's in there.
Yeah, Pitbull's fighting somebody dope. I forget who.
Oh, he's fighting Juan Archuleta.
Yeah, that's a fucking great fight. So yeah, Bellator when they try. And when Viacom isn't fucking them in the ass while they try and put on a good product, Bellator can put out some fucking dope fights. The fights last weekend were great. Fucking Bellator won whatever the fuck it was. 244? That sounds wrong.
No, they're not that high.
I was going to say. I forget what it was, but it was a really fucking good card. It was a 224?
Yeah. I think they're like 220 something.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, it was a fucking great card. I mean, Leslie Smith got a win, so I'm happy. But but the Bellator card was almost as fun as the UFC card last weekend.
Then they end it with saying they talk about Conor versus Cowboy, or just more lightweight stuff. They talk about a potential rematch between Cowboy and Ferguson. That was all before it was announced. Essentially, Cowboy made note of it on social media that he had a fight coming up, and they announced it yesterday. Cowboy's fighting Justin Gaethje. Cowboy doesn't appear
which is awesome, right now, but
it's not a good fight for a Cowboy in my opinion.
Not with the amount Gaethje likes to work the body.
No, I honestly think Gaethje wins that fight in the first, second round. I mean, premature, and no disrespect to Cowboy, that's just no. This is not a good matchup for him stylistically. That's just a terrible matchup for Cowboy. I like Cowboy a lot, and I know he could bring volume himself, but you're essentially asking yourself to literally just fucking fight in a phone booth.
Stylistically, it's a tough fucking out for Cowboy. Cowboy doesn't like being pressured. Cowboy doesn't like dudes who throw mad body shots, and Gaethje has the better wrestling.
Leg kicks too, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much the leg kicks will actually play into it though, because Gaethje's going to be so inside that any of his leg kicks are going to be like those nasty, almost like clinch tie-up neat leg kicks that he throws, where you're so close that you have to turn it over at this crazy angle.
Yeah, and then they said they think Chris Cyborg will sign with like another promotion. I think she has one fight left on her contract.
She does have one fight. I'm pretty sure she's going to Bellator. She's been tweeting about Bellator like a motherfucker, and I don't think they're going to pay her what she's going to want for the Nunes rematch. So
so that's what I have for the catches. Other than that,
those are pretty solid.
Yeah, not bad at all.
I had another catch actually for this week, which is Severe MMA Podcast Premium. It is the episode where Pete Carroll comes on to talk about the state of Irish MMA and the IMMAA, which is really interesting. I've heard Sean talk briefly about how Irish MMA and the scene there is kind of dying after all the regulations after the Brazilian dude died. That was, of course, everybody knows from Conor reacting to it since it was I think it was an SBG guy who was fighting. And Ireland's had big laws afterwards where essentially they're forcing everyone to now go through the same physician organization to sanction MMA events. And that physician organization, I think it's called Code Blue, is extremely expensive. And the tests they have to run are extremely expensive, which essentially is making it so there are no smaller. I think there's only 2 smaller organizations putting on shows there right now, because it's just you lose money. You're losing money if you want to put on a show. So it's like Bellator is about the only people, and Bellator is doing weird things with their events anyway. And it kind of is one of those things where I think Sean even mentioned during the episode that they're kind of just counting down time until Bellator checks the books and realizes they're losing money in the long run on a lot of these fights, which is kind of crazy to hear. So they talk a bit about how guys like Dan Healy is working on testing and documenting brain damage, but a lot of politicians are basically just dunking on Dan Healy and talking shit about him, saying he's just trying to make money, even though the dude has been given big props by most big name MMA fighters that have ever worked with them. It's kind of weird. And then they talk a bit about how Conor is essentially the only Irish-based, Irish-trained UFC fighter right now. There's a bunch of guys in Bellator for SBG, which is also kind of weird and sketchy since John Kavanagh has a kind of a weird development relationship with Bellator, where like so John Kavanagh is a coach. He's also a promoter. His promotion is putting on either put on an event or is putting on an event where the winner of I think it's a tournament, but the winner of whatever it is going to get a Bellator contract. So there's some real sketchy ties between Kavanagh and Bellator where no one's saying that he's working directly for Bellator, but dude is kind of working directly for Bellator, which is a weird relationship that is not really. I mean, Scott Coker is like had informal versions of that with people like AKA in the past because he's been good buddies with, of course, with Javi out at AKA. But it's kind of weird to see all the John Kavanagh stuff and some of the fucking super favorable matchups that SVG guys have been getting. So it's interesting to hear Sean talk honestly about that stuff, since it's the only place I hear about that news. It's the only place I hear about the state of Irish MMA. It's the only place I hear about Kavanagh's incestuous relationship with both being a trainer, a promoter, and a dude who works directly with an organization that he's getting fighters potentially favorable matchups in pretty consistently. So it's
no
all pretty interesting.
Ward keeps winning.
Why who?
So no wonder why Charlie Ward keeps winning.
Yeah, I mean James Gallagher is also another one where dude has definitely got some favorable matchups here and there. He's got some tough ones too, but
John Brighton. Just kidding. Sorry, Robert Brighton. I know I keep making that joke.
Yeah, but it's interesting to hear, and I really, without Sean's insight into this stuff and without him talking openly about it with guys like PC Carroll, I would never know. I would just honestly never know because no one else is talking about it at all. So found it super interesting. They do bring up also at one point that when it comes to Conor lately, no news is good news, which I thought, wow, if the severe MMA guys are saying that shit, oh, that's not a good sign for your prospects
like
of upcoming fights.
Anything Ireland, they're saying that's not good.
Well, yeah, and the dudes with their fingers on the pulse of Irish media, if they're like, if we haven't heard anything, that's probably good. That's not as Eugene Robinson would say. Oh God, what's the quote? I had a quote. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. Where is it? As Eugene Robinson would say, you do anything you can to make people forget about 2 words. By the way, the words are anal rape, if you didn't figure that out.
No, I know. I wasn't going to say it.
Don't worry, I did, and so did Eugene S. Robinson.
I listened to If I Did It.
Yeah, that'll come up in a bit. But yeah, very solid episode of Severe MMA. It's their premium one about Irish MMA. They also just put out a premium episode on Sean. That, by the way, that's one of Sean's or the Severe MMA Patreon podcast, which their Patreon is fantastic for the price of a pint, as Sean always says. A month you can get that, and he puts out so much content, and it's all very thoughtful. He talks a million miles a minute, which I really like. Him and PT talk so fucking fast at each other in the craziest accent, and I'm a big fan of it. So.
Well, the fact that he says pizza almost sounds like he says pizza because he says so fast. So remember for like an episode, I'm like, this guy's name is not Pizza Carol.
Oh, that's pretty good though. I do like that.
Oh, yeah, pizza. Duh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it checks
I
out.
say, wait, when I think of Pete Carroll, I think of the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks.
I think that's why he goes by Pizza. Yeah,
that has no. I would too. I don't want to confuse all the American listeners too. Especially because all the Americans fucking love football for the most part. So
cool, man. Well, so do you have a skip this week?
Yeah, it's more or less
actually. Before you get into your half skip, I should give out the Eugene S. Robinson style disclaimer that just because we say to skip your show does not mean we hate you. Doesn't mean we hate your show. Might mean that you have a shithead producer and or manager that is handling how many fucking ads you allow in your show. That may or may not come up later. Or it just means that your show was not worth the time it took to listen to this week. So, Chris, why don't you let us know what your half skip is for the MMA podcast you recommend people skip?
As Kenny Powers says, sometimes it's just because you're being a fucking dickhead. Not really.
Checks out.
It was, believe you me, it was the episode titled The G Word. By the way, no matter what, this time, very entertaining to listen to Michael Bisping and Luis J. Gomez. Like, I will laugh no matter what. That's great. That's
how many dicks did Luis J. Gomez suck on video during this episode?
Well, I listened to the audio. However, there was some audible filleting.
I see what you did there. No, well, so I'm guessing then that fucking. Oh my God, what's his goddamn name? I ruined my goddamn joke because I can't remember Bill Burr's buddy's name who likes cigars. Bobby Kelly.
Bobby Kelly.
I'm guessing Bobby Kelly was standing off screen then while Lewis was filleting him during the episode.
The only person that was definitely being filleted though was Ali Abdelaziz and Floyd Mayweather for sure. Before I get into that. Michael Bisping discovered what an earthquake was when he went to Disneyland in 2008 with his family at the time. He was in the parking lot and he felt a big rumbling on the ground. He's like, wait, honey, did they have like underground roller coasters? That was hilarious. And then Lewis is like, Michael, you're in California. Have you ever heard of an earthquake?
I think this is episode 146 for the record.
Yeah, it's called The G Word, and you're thinking the G Word, like we're talking about just gay? Like, no, that can't be it. No, Michael talks shit about gypsies. He immediately says the worst kind of people in the world at amusement parks are fucking gypsies, Lewis. And Lewis was like, you can't say that, Michael. You can't say that.
Meanwhile, Lewis is just trying to antagonize him into saying worse shit.
Yeah. But anyways, they talk about amusement park rides. There's that video. I don't know if you've seen it yet. It was in India just yesterday. Have you ever been on that ride, Pulver, where it's a big pendulum and it goes like this? And it's like you're in a big disc or like like everyone's like strapped in like this, and you can see people across the street. Have you ever been on one of those, by the way, whether it's at the Del Mar Fair or...
No, I know what you're talking about, though. I don't fucking like rides. I don't like heights. I don't get off on...
I've only been on one of those once, and it's exciting, but it's also terrifying. And yeah, guess what happened in India? It goes like this. Oh, wait, goes off its axis, hits a pole, detaches, falls, kills 2 people instantly, and injures severely 39 fucking people. I saw the video, and I'll say this. At one point, there's a shitload of blood on the ground, and I think that was the remains of someone who got... I don't know why I'm laughing. Maybe I'm just a piece of shit.
Sometimes.
Yeah, Lewis, of course, was laughing the whole time.
Of course.
He's deranged like me. Michael was then talking about lots of macabre stories. I don't know if he's thinking of the word macabre, but...
Did you just anime the word macabre?
Yeah, but see, I thought it was macabre. That's what I'm saying, because he says it
Macabre?
differently. What's up?
Cabra?
No, yeah, macabre. No, that was Lewis. He was like, "How are you trying to say this, Michael?" And he's like, macabre. And he's like, "No, you're saying as you're reading it, because that's just how fun the English language is, right?" Anyways, they talked about more of very gruesome stories of lots of children dying. And then as far as after talking about children dying, they talk about Thiago Santos getting multiple knee surgeries and his toughness. They talk about Conor McGregor turning down Justin Gaethje multiple times, and now Cowboy stepping up for that challenge like Cowboy does. Lewis thinks Jorge Masvidal would knock Conor the fuck out. I mean, I'm kind of on that train too.
At this point, I don't even know what the fuck Conor we would see, and also that dude's about to get Irish Sports Starred as his permanent name on this show because I don't know why, but people decide that even though he's done nothing in the last year, we should start saying his name again like he's at all relevant or has fought.
I had a fun time reading comments on social media, which is not a fun time, let me tell you. I saw comments that McGregor pieces up Masvidal easy, second round KO. That made me almost fall on my chair. That was pretty funny.
It's hilarious that they think he has enough cardio to go 2 rounds at this point.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, his boxing is the best." I'm like, that's another funny comment.
Coming, especially after hearing his coach say that the 1-2 is a bad technique.
It's just, dude, like,
his jiu-jitsu coach, I should say.
Anyone that wants to just look at comments made by natural comedians, look no further than Conor McGregor fanboys. Another one, in my opinion, Nate Diaz fanboys. I like Nate Diaz, don't get me wrong, but people put him on a pedestal like he's some golden god. I'm just saying it right, at least on social media. Like, I like Nate Diaz, the very talented fighter, but don't fucking try to convince me he's like a top 5 talent. Sure, he has the style matchups against some of the top 5 guys. I get that.
He's one of those. Him and his brother both.
Yeah, like they're a little overrated. Like, and I like Nate Diaz, and he says welterweight is his home, which is good.
No, yeah, they're awesome against dudes who can't wrestle.
Thank you. So, but
and I love the Diaz brothers. They have my favorite style ever.
It's nothing will ever be as bad as the McGregor fanboys. You know.
Don't get me wrong. I love pressure counter boxers with solid jiu-jitsu, but
and the ironic thing is, all the McGregor fanboys who acknowledge how great McGregor is, they acknowledge all of his greatness in the wrong reasons. He's not a great boxer. He's a great counter striker. He can distance. He's great at that. He's got a great power in his left hand.
Yeah, he's a counter pot shotter.
Yeah, so there you go. I just had to get out of the way because like they brought, and then after that it just turns into a shit show. They just talk about Floyd Mayweather and Khabib, and Lewis is convinced Khabib would go the distance against Mayweather, and I was laughing. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then Ali Abdelaziz thinks Mayweather is broke, and it's just like Michael's like, no, there's no way he's broke. Look all the money he's made. I know he's a big gambler, so. And then they end saying Harrington is nothing but a fat Reddit troll, and then it just kind of went all over the place.
To be fair,
yeah,
not wrong. Harrington probably is a fat Reddit troll. Also,
isn't he fighting Lewis soon?
He already fought Lewis. He got his ass whooped by Lewis. It's pretty.
Really? That's
yeah,
great.
But luckily afterwards, Ari Shafir cut a promo with a pro wrestler afterwards, who then slammed Lewis through a table, and then Ari sat on his face.
Okay, that sounds hilarious.
Sorry, Ari dropped trowel and then sat on his face.
That makes sense.
Yep, there's video of it if you want to. If you've ever seen Punch Drunk Sports, you've seen more than enough of Ari's balls and asshole. But if you ever need more,
clip. So I think I'll pass.
Yeah, no, that's the right move.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that I can see why it's a skip. That show always has moments, but when Lewis starts going off the rails,
it's either a catch or a skip, and it's no disrespect to this.
It's kind of like half catch, half skip.
I'm always entertained either way. Like, they say ridiculous shit, and Michael Bisping's fucking hilarious too. So, I mean, dude, let's go watch fucking The Ultimate Fighter if you don't think Michael Bisping's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, especially this season with Mayhem Miller, season 14, one of my top 3 probably favorite seasons ever.
Oh yeah, that was one of the ones that got me back into The Ultimate Fighter.
You literally get John Dodson being a sleeper cell agent and a snitch, and Dillashaw being pre-Snake.
Yeah, there's some crazy shit on that season.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So that's
cool,
I
man.
have my half skip.
So mine's kind of a half skip as well, except I'm making it a full skip, despite the content in the episode being very good. You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen, the Call Out era. This episode was very good in the content that Chael put out. Chael talked about how he couldn't get Joel on because Joel's busy selling cars right now. And Chael sells a bunch of... Sorry?
Is like he's actually selling cars?
Yeah, he's back to selling cars. He's like working at a car lot. He has a desk job. It's supposed to be going real well.
Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's sold cars off and on for fucking since the original Team Quest days with Randy and everybody. So Joel couldn't come on because he's doing that. So Chael tells us about a bunch of stories about how resourceful Joel is, including fucking Joel deciding in 2006 he's going to get into the movie business and then writing a script and pitching Dana White on it. But the entire script was just description of the scene. Randy Couture does badass stuff. Description of the next scene. Randy Couture does badass stuff. And it just went like that forever. It's pretty great. And also at one point he talks about how Joel was inspired by the movie Super Size Me to hire a documentary crew. And he was going to do a documentary on him losing 100 pounds. And then in one day doing a cross-country marathon and an MMA fight. Or not cross-country, but like a marathon and an MMA fight. Which is
so
fucking hilarious.
Now that you told me that Joel's back to selling cars, my nickname for him is Brother Honda. I don't know what's the easiest car to sell.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I'm gonna call him Brother Honda.
Also, that I'm pretty sure that show's dead. The 51 to 92 or 80 or 81 92. That feed is dead on my phone anyway. I'm pretty sure. Here, I'll double check. Let's see if they updated the RSS feed yet.
Brother Sin didn't give penance.
Yeah. Look at that. 51 to 82 still has the fucked up flag saying it's not updating.
Wait, real quick, hate to interject.
Yeah.
Shows that are dead, and I fucking hope it's not dead. Is the Morning Wood Show still a thing?
It sounds like it's mostly dead. I don't think it's permanently dead. I think it's just Tyron's doing too much shit and Dean's doing too much shit.
Because
I
was good. The only other show, and they came back like 4 months ago.
And they put out 2 episodes and haven't put out one since.
Yeah, goddamn.
Fucking Daniel Cormier. I swear to God, bro.
Fuck. And dude, they're just like fucking. They're just
goddamn talker. I know. I just had that realization again the other day as well. I was like, fucking talker. God damn it. I was I tweeted out how excited I was about you guys coming back. You were back for like an extra 3 days after that and then gone again.
I know Cormier's in camp. If he wins, I think if he loses Stipe, they run that shit back for sure. They'll do the rubber match. If he wins and he retires, then we're talking Dogger.
Maybe. I hope so. It'd be dope. It's a good show. I really like it.
If I'm Cormier, if there's any fight to retire on, it's beating Stipe a second time.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, because then you're probably considered the heavyweight GOAT at that point, arguably.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So they talk about that. Also, Chael talks a bit about how good Ricky Simone is and Uriah getting the win and calling out Cejudo. The reason why this show is sorry, go ahead.
I just said, oh no, I'm just sighing very loudly when you mentioned Uriah. I'm sorry.
Well, so really, yeah. Well, he talks a lot about. First off, he says he hates the call-out era, despite being the one that started it, because everybody does it wrong. They don't talk about why. Like he says, the only thing you have to do during a call-out is talk about who, what, when, where, and why, and no one does the why in MMA yet, and it frustrates the shit out of him.
No one does.
Yeah, I thought it was a very poignant point, and it's a good reason why Chael is fucking awesome at this shit. Also, I need to fix the lighting in here because I look like I'm having a heat stroke or that I'm turning slowly into the most Polish zombie of all time. But the reason why this episode is a skip for me, this episode was 49 minutes long, They had 16 ad reads in 49 minutes.
Okay. See, I knew you were gonna say something about the ads. I was gonna just guess 10, but
10 would be extreme because that would be an ad every 5 minutes.
So,
there was 16.
That means it's at least a minute read. So is that like 16 to 25?
Longer than that.
Okay, so you're telling me out of the 49 minutes, probably about 30 of it was ads?
I would say no. I would say probably 20 to 25. I would say almost half was ad reads.
That's still unacceptable as fuck. Like,
yeah.
As the guy from ESN, that's totally unacceptable, and unexpectable.
Not only that, there's repeats of ad reads, of pre-taped ad reads during the episode.
Oh boy!
Like I had to hear Uber Black. I had to hear 2 Uber Black commercials. I had to hear.
I guess.
2.
Did you hear eugenics?
No, no.
Male testosterone.
No Blue Chew either.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
A lot of Blue Chew ads this week. Fucking Blue Chew. Like y'all can't go to a goddamn gas station and just John Jones this shit up.
Get that rhino.
Oh, you already know. Hit up Brian Redband if you don't.
I'd love to be methed out, dude. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, just go full Lamar Odom on this shit.
It's like, how dare you talk trash about Miss Piggy?
Jesus Christ. All right, well, let's keep on moving on.
That's like the former big Lakers fan in me just talking shit on post Lamar Odom success 2009-2010 title run with. Yep.
Cool, man. So why don't you jump into? Do you have an MMA podcast you recommend people not miss this week?
I sure do. It is, and if I can fuck it, here it is. Slip and Dip, episode 106 with Matt and Kendrick.
Really? I kind of like this one.
I like this one a lot. I'll say this. I'll try to watch the boxing fight tomorrow with Pacquiao and I think it's Keith Thurman.
Yep.
Oh, is it Keith? Yeah.
I think it is.
This thing. I haven't followed welterweight boxing for the past 5 years because it's just like no one really. Okay, I know there's guys there still, but it's just once Pacquiao and Mayweather kind of went off in the sunset, I was like, this sucks now. That's why it's all about heavyweights. We know this. Come on. Fucking Tyson Fury. He should be your favorite fucking boxer. Come on. Everyone loves Tyson Fury. Him and Wilder. They're the two most entertaining people to watch in boxing, in my opinion. And no disrespect to Andy Ruiz.
I was going to say,
yeah.
I'm on an Andy Ruiz hype train. All big boys all the time.
Yeah,
it's big boy season, Chris.
Yeah. So if you're trying to get into boxing, go to the heavyweight division, welterweight, whatever, middleweight, wherever Canelo's at. It's just called Canelo weight because he's gonna get all the calls. He's there, his boy. And I like Canelo. Canelo's great, sure, but don't care anymore. Anyways, that's my boxing rant. They were talking about, even though it looked bad for Aspen Ladd at the weigh-ins, the California State Athletic Commission is one of the best at determining if you're fit to fight. So
it looked bad. It looked bad. It looked like she's gonna die. Is what it looked like. It looked like she was shaking so bad they couldn't actually get her weight.
Didn't you say first round knockout too? And I was
yes,
like, yeah,
absolutely, because you can't fucking weigh in like that.
You can't. You're gonna die.
I also said multiple times last week the California State Athletic Commission should be fucking ashamed for letting that fight happen.
I'm gonna say this right now, just as a warning, just full disclosure. This would be one of the most offensive things I've said on this podcast.
Oh, but, wow. Who are you calling a cunt?
I'm not going that far, but I'm glad that you just had your hands on that button right there.
Wouldn't be the worst thing I've said.
Thank you, Herb Dean. And thank you, GDR, for the free fantasy points.
Oh, yeah. You did. Yeah, that did work out real well for you in fantasy.
I mean, I'm in first place right now.
Yeah. No, I think I'm second to last. I'm doing terrible.
It's all good. You weren't there though, so that doesn't even you can't even be mad.
I'm crushing our other season by so much.
You know what's funny? You're still not gonna get last. There's no way. You're gonna win a fucking auto pick bullshit. So
yeah, I'll come up with a couple sneakers, but
I just realized the NFL starts in 2 weeks, the preseason, and I got a big time fantasy football draft coming up in 3 weeks, so I got some studying I got to do. AKA, for all the people who are big into fantasy football, and that's the majority of fantasy people in general, if you play fantasy, look up beer sheets. It's kind of cheating. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, it's beer sheets. Trust me on this. Anyways, that's my plug for fantasy football. And
beer sheets is going to be my... No, I'm not going to make that joke. Go ahead. Keep going.
So they go, if you're Uriah Faber, you have to avoid top guys like Marlon Moraes. Clearly. That is not in Faber's plans. No.
No, terrible.
No. That is just no. That's it. No. He's going to do his best to getting that title shot. And what sucks, too, is they said, yeah, this is going to be two of the worst motherfuckers at talking trash, so have fun with that bullshit. I like how I said Nico Montano needs to stay at 135, which they acknowledge, but it typed it as Nicholas Montano, the mythical
Shots fired. She wasn't on that many drugs, dog.
Yeah. I don't think so. At least not that we know of. Just kidding. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. I was made another offensive joke, but I'm good. Ryan Hall is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC, and I like what they said here because it looks like he doesn't give a shit, and then suddenly he has your leg. Yeah. Dude, I watched this fight when I was at work. I fucking love Ryan Hall. The dude just wins, and he's just like, okay, I guess. Yeah, Ryan Hall is awesome. He gets a ranked guy next, right? No, Elkins was ranked. Was he 15?
Dude, I don't fucking the goddamn rankings. I have no idea.
Anyway, Ryan Hall's getting a ranked motherfucker next, and this dude is a problem. He's a jiu-jitsu guy who doesn't give a fuck, who isn't afraid to throw in some spinning shit. So there's that. Corey Anderson had a very good interview on the phone. He talks about matchups he declined and opponents who declined him. He says at this point he wants anyone in the top 5 at 205. He talks about an unfortunate situation. It wasn't unfortunate for him. I'll tell you about the unfortunate situation. He was in the hospital with his wife. They're awaiting their newborn child. He was on the phone with Dana, literally right when his wife was in labor. He said, "Hey, Dana, can I give you a call back?" Dana said, "Hey, we're giving you the fight against Alexander Gustafsson. That's going to be you." This is according to Corey Anderson on the phone. Dana's like, "All right, you got the fight against Gus. Call me back after your wife has given birth. I'll hash out the details." Okay? Wife gives birth. Tries to call Dana. Dana doesn't answer. Nurses calls, that kind of thing. Then it's announced, Anthony Smith versus Alexander. And Corey's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he told that story on Rogan's too. It's very goddamn Zuffa and MMA of that shit to go like that.
He talks about his analysis on John Jones's performance against Thiago Santos. He talked about, okay, what do you want next then, man? What the fuck is next? And he's like, I want all the smoke. Give me that crack smoke. Give me that weed smoke. Give me any top 5 guy. I want all the smoke. And
yeah, he was calling everybody out and just throwing fucking shade during this episode. I really liked it. And that's something that Slip and Dip tries to get out of people a lot. They'll definitely set people up to be like, please give us a soundbite, motherfuckers. Like, I would say Submission Radio does that a lot, but they're very subtle about it. Whereas they'll point you in the direct. They're not as bad as Ariel. Like, Ariel's the worst. Ariel will just be like, by the way, I'm sure there's conversations with Ariel prior to the interview being like, by the way, I'd like to ask you about this thing, so please have something prepared.
By the way, shouts out to my coworker named Jack, who's a boxer. He boxes at like a boxing gym, right? He's a huge boxing guy. I fill him in on MMA and shit, and he watches MMA not casually, but like a little up, whatever's above casually, right? He was saying, "What do you think about Ariel Helwani?" I'm like, "He's a fucking instigator." He's like, "Thank you." He's like, "I thought I was the only one." I'm like, "No, thank you, please." Yeah.
100%. Dan Tom even called out Ariel for being.
If a boxer and a boxing fan knows that Ariel instigates shit, come on.
Yeah, so. Dan Tom even dunked on Ariel for being an instigator this week, for him constantly shitting on JDR as a champ and being like, well, not a real champ because she bailed and didn't fight Cyborg. But then also Ariel this week on his show being like, why doesn't anybody like JDR?
I'll just say this. As long as that belt's wrapped around your waist, I'd call myself a fucking champ regardless. I mean.
Well, also, Ariel's opinion is ultra not at all relevant and generally pretty biased as to who is in contact with him and or friends with the manager of him. So
I mean, yeah, there's that. I'll get through this quickly. Mike Brown was on the phone. Great interview. He won Trainer of the Year. They congratulate him on that.
Yep.
He thinks Jorge Masvidal could do everything so well and will not only be successful in his fighting career, but also eventually when he's a coach. He thinks Jorge is going to make that transition at some point.
And Mike is the kind of dude who would know, because Mike, while being a great fighter, I think is an even better coach. Mike's one of the best coaches we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Him and Dean Thomas are both as great as they were as fighters. They're so fucking good as coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, because who does Mike mainly corner? I mean, he corners a lot of fighters, but I know it's Nunes, it's Masvidal.
A lot of the big name AKA people.
ATT.
ATT, sorry. Yeah.
Poirier. He's in Poirier's corner, of course, because he's you know, if you just look that shit up. There's a lot of killers there. Joanna. He's the head coach of Joanna right now, currently.
Yeah, it also kind of depends on who has fights coming up at the time too, because sometimes they'll swap out some coaches.
Yeah, there's like Conan Silveira
and Conan.
Dean Thomas has cornered Amanda in the past. He discusses USADA and whether he thinks sport is cleaner now than before. He says he thinks it is. He talked about the randomness of testing. He said, hell, Uriah Faber was tested when his wife was in labor. Speaking of more people. So, USADA's everywhere. Jose Shorty Torres was on there. He discussed Henry Cejudo and how he's not good at marketing himself, so he just kind of just embraces being cringy as fuck.
Yep.
Shorty Torres talks about being personal friends with Colby Covington because Torres. Oh, speaking of another AGT guy, great fucking camp, great fucking fighter. Torres is
one of the AGT is hands down the best camp around right now. At least the best big camp. Like I would say of the smaller camps. Fucking Sadiq, not Sadiq. I'm sorry, Safe Saud right now out at Fortis has got to be like right up. That camp is right up there in the smaller camps. But if you want like a big camp where you have tons of bodies to work with, there's nowhere like ATT. It's not even close.
No, it's unrivaled. Excuse me. Torres talks about they're like, hey, what are your thoughts on Colby Covington? And they're like, well, if you know him personally, he said he's a fucking great guy. He's like the whole thing he does is an act. Like he's like you have to be a fucking moron to believe any of that bullshit. He's like there's an instance where I was just chatting with him at a media event. You know, he's talking to me. He says, "Hey man, good luck in your fight, brother. Good, look forward to seeing you after the fight back at camp, back in Florida, right?" And then he says maybe like 5 minutes later, cameras are on. Colby. He just switches like this, just goes into character.
Well, and everybody said that. Like John Morgan's one of the biggest people.
Yeah, the only people who believe that shit's real are just casual fans or stans or whatever.
Casual fans, and then there's media that pretends like it's real, which is weird because a lot of them, like Ariel does it all the time, where he pretends like it's a real gimmick, which is like, I guess it's the kayfabe bullshit that he does, but I don't mean to just be dunking on Ariel all the time, especially since his episode, I didn't listen this week, but his episode last week was very good. So I don't mean to just be dunking on Ariel over and over again, but that dude Ariel likes gimmicks way too much and just like kayfabe the shit out of it.
I like Ariel when he's serious and he's doing the whole journalism thing just as like an actual host and analyst.
Right. So like 3 years ago when he was actually an actual journalist.
Yeah. And there's still not shades of that at some point, but now it's just your mouthpiece for ESPN. I get it. You're getting a nice paycheck. That's it. It's all
although now good. I think about it, 2-3 years ago he was also literally a mouthpiece for the UFC and getting paychecks from him. Yeah, so maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
And then my last part, real quick, so I'll let you get into your thing. Torres says he's American-born, first generation, which is interesting. So, which means his parents, grandparents are all from elsewhere. He said he's Puerto Rican and of Mexican descent, or Mexican blood, I should say. Kendrick asked him, "Hey, I'm curious, how come there aren't more Latino fighters that bring up their ethnicity more often?" He said, "That's a good point." He says, in my opinion, at least in our division, that's because a lot of Latino fighters don't actually speak Spanish. He's like, Sergio Pettis doesn't speak Spanish. Joseph Benavidez doesn't speak Spanish. And yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, especially the marketing. And then they brought up he said, look at, Yair Rodriguez, Mexican-born fighter, proud Mexican fighter. Yeah, the UFC's going to get behind him. Brian Ortega, I'm pretty fucking sure that dude speaks Spanish.
He does, for sure. His dad's, I think, only speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
Or at least speaks Spanish as his main language at the house.
Like, sure, he's half white, right? Gets the old blue-eyed look, sure. But
I know plenty of dudes who are half white that are Mexican as fuck.
Well, yeah, and that's what you get
coming up in San Diego.
I think it's fantastic for not only Ortega but for the UFC. I know right now. I think they're trying to get Ortega on that Mexico City card. I know Korean Zombie.
I think is that not official yet?
It's rumored to be official, and you know what? That's gonna be a fucking good ass fight.
Yeah, that'll be fun as hell. Dude, I like
Zombies got some like jiu-jitsu too.
Yeah. Oh, dude, first twister ever in the UFC.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, ask Leonard Garcia.
Let's fucking go. Because the rumor initially before that is Yair was gonna fight T-City in Mexico City. But it looks like it's kind of leaning towards, and I don't dislike that fight, but it looks like it's leaning towards more competing Korean Zombie going to Mexico.
I think that would be so fucking fun.
It's a fun fight. So
yeah,
that's all I got for my can't miss. I know we're kind of trying to crunch time here. I'll let you go ahead and get into yours.
Sure. So my can't miss this week is Fits and a Fighter. It's really fucking good. It's Fits and a Fighter episode 9. With Joe Lozon. Joe Lozon guests, and they talked about first learning to fight by just messing around with his friends on trampolines. Like, they would originally start out by trying to do pile drivers on each other on trampolines, and then they started doing it so they would try to, like, resist, and you would have to try and force the pile driver, and it just escalated from there. He talks about getting started in BJJ in his first AMI fight. Talks about getting the Jens Pulver fight and the Kenny Florian fights. And as you guys heard on, is this our intro? I believe this was our intro. Let me double check. Yeah, as you guys heard on our intro, Joe Lozon at one point says the most fucking hard goddamn motherfucker, like just so goddamn hard of him. And he said it so offhandedly. He's just like, oh, this is I'm ad-libbing, but like you guys heard on the intro, he says something along the lines of, blood is just kind of like red sweat. It's not a big deal. It's just like the hardest statement I've ever heard in my life. It's fucking very Joe Lozon, and that dude is just a goddamn wild man. Bunch of crazy stories from him coming up and fighting with his brother and all that stuff. It also talks about starting Lozon MMA and guys from his gym coming up and looking really good. Guys like Rob Font and Calvin Cater and a bunch of other guys he's been working with.
Shouts out to Boston MMA.
Exactly, and he's actually mentioned he's looking to fight on the Boston card that's happening in October. So
I know, yeah. So is Cater and so is Font.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if that comes together. But I love Joe Lozon. I've been a Joe Lozon fan since the Pulver fight. Actually, that's when I first learned about him.
Yep.
Because of course, shocker, I still am to this day a giant Jens Pulver fan. Number one, because he's been a super nice guy to me a couple times on Twitter, and we have the same last name. He's actually one of the reasons why I got into MMA, because everybody be like, you know who Jens Pulver is? The guy, I broke my arm punching a wall like a fucking idiot in high school, something like that. I caught a stud with my pinky hitting the wall.
If you didn't catch the stud, I'd call you Kyle.
No, I caught the stud just with my pinky, so it was just like the most boxer fracture where I had a triangle coming off of my pinky.
That triangle fracture. That's fantastic. Yeah,
100%. And then the guy that reset it was like, "Oh, he came in and he was resetting my hand." Afterwards, he's like, "So, do you know who Jens Pulver is?" I was like, "Yes, I do know who Jens Pulver is." So yeah, it's just a really, really fun interview. Joe Lozon also talks about working in tech and kind of getting his degree in that, and how he got by making websites for a long time, and how he still does that here and there. Not a ton of Counter-Strike talk, but a little bit of video game talk. So. Just a really good interview, and I really think Fits and a Fighter is an underrated show that people are sleeping on. Just because his interviews, while they're very calm and very mellow, and like you're not going to get big sound bites that are like flashy, and he's not going to try and goad people into conversations they don't want to have. He just wants to have conversations with people about what he finds interesting about him and what they want to talk about. And then every once in a while, you'll get Joe Lozon saying stuff like blood is just kind of like a red sweat. And you're like, Jesus, that is a hard motherfucking statement, dog. So yeah, Fits in a Fighter episode 9. Highly recommend checking it out. It's a very good episode.
Oh yeah, man.
Cool. So did you listen to any new shows this week?
Fortunately not.
All right. Well, so your
idiot.
assignment for next week is to listen to Morning Combat, which is the show that Luke Thomas does with Brian Campbell on Brendan Schaub's YouTube channel, Below the Belt. So Luke Thomas
and Brian Campbell.
Yeah, so Luke Thomas signed with Showtime after leaving MMA Fighting, and he is doing a show called Morning Combat. You can find it just as a podcast, or you can find the video version on YouTube on Brendan Schaub's Below the Belt YouTube channel. And I listened to the first 2 episodes. They're doing one a week, it seems like, and I think they're on Mondays or towards the beginning of the week. So the first episode, they did a UFC 239 recap. They talk about Jorge's KO of Ben. And it's a good show. They're definitely doing, you would know better than me. Is it PTI that they talk really fast? Or is it just all ESPN shows where they talk really fast?
And I'm glad they're still around. It's Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon.
Is it really fast back and forth? Like they're clearly talking sped up?
It is, yeah, because they're on a timer.
Yeah. So it's like that without the timer. They're clear, like Luke and Brian are clearly talking fast, and it's kind of distracting. It almost feels like Showtime has told them, hey, /Brendan Schaub said, hey, do a PTI version of an MMA show. Because it's out of cadence for Luke Thomas. Like, I would give the Luke Thomas cadence scale like the slowest is Sirius XM, where he just draws everything out and over enunciates and makes weird radio show noises, like a lot of like kind of radio show noises. And then there's like regular Luke Thomas, which I would say is like MMA Beat Luke Thomas. His Fight Night recap stuff that he does on his own YouTube channel, or even the A-Side, or not, whatever the A-Side live chat used to be, promotional malpractice live chat, like that kind of cadence. And then the fastest cadence is this new show, Morning Combat, where it sounds like if you put one of his other content on double speed and then it also added Brian Campbell. It's a little jarring. I might just be that I'm not used to it. But it stands out that they're talking much faster. And it's kind of forced feeling, but maybe I'll get used to it and it'll grow on me over time. But they talk about Thiago Santos fucking his shit up. And Luke did mention that he heard John Jones, the reason why he didn't kind of step in and try to make a statement against Thiago is because he thought Thiago the whole time was throwing looping shots to try and get him to step in so he could throw something super hard and straight down the middle, which is interesting. I don't know how much validity I actually give to that, but it's an interesting statement nonetheless. This show feels a little, it feels like, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without being insulting. It feels like Brendan Schaub had his hand in this show. It feels like there is an agenda of how this show was going to work that was planned ahead of time, in that it was clearly a fast-paced debate show where one of them picks a statement, the other one disagrees, the first one doubles down on a controversial statement.
So that's how it was.
Is like right on the edge. Is this sounding PTI-esque?
I don't know. It's just more like Brendan's like, yo, hey Luke, hey man, welcome to Showtime. So this is the script B. I'll break it down to you. So,
see, I don't even think it's a script. I think Brendan and Luke sit down for lunch. They have a conversation where Brendan goes, man, really what people really want to hear is two people debate a topic. And then if you've seen PTI, they debate a topic, but they're very fast paced when they talk.
Isn't this like Ariel and the Bad Guy?
Yes, very similar. Less scripted than Ariel and the Bad Guy feeling. But more more like they planned out their deliberate talking points, but less like they planned out every step of it.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm sure it'll grow on me over time. It feels kind of weird at its current state. But they're 2 episodes in, so like our show was most shows are fucking very weird 2 episodes in. So they haven't really found their rhythm and their format yet. So that could be a big part of it, and I'm willing to
go for it, man.
I'm willing to kind of write a lot of that off just to practice and time fixing a lot of that. But as you guys will hear on our break coming up, they are editing themselves during the show. They are allowed. Luke actually mentions they're allowed 1 F word a show. They're on YouTube. It's just on fucking Brennan Schaub's YouTube channel, which, by the way, Brennan Schaub swears all the time on his YouTube channel.
Okay, so I hear Showtime, and then they just said, "Never mind, dude. What the fuck?"
Well, Chris, on the clip between our first segment and our second segment, you'll get to hear how I believe it was Brian Campbell explained that you can't mess with Jorge Masvidal because if you F with them, he's going to get in that A. So
that's why I just want to like walk out of my room right now. I'm like, outside. It's like when I think of F and the A, I think of the episode of South Park with the breakdancing. It's like you get F'd in the A on Saturday.
Well, and it's Luke fucking Thomas. Luke Thomas is sworn always in every content he's ever done.
Oh, no, she's like, oh, what an F. You know, F that, you S. Like, I get it. Luke Thomas doesn't like the cuss. But then literally, like, a fucking 2 lines later, like, this fucker. And then just, like,
100%. Luke like, generally.
You're fucking mean. You're the Marines, dog. You know how fucking much you cuss on
and Luke generally swears during his shows. He's called people fucking donks for a decade. He swore on MMA fighting when I'm sure they didn't like him too. So it's weird that Showtime is enforcing that. I don't know if it's like what I'm guessing is this show is kind of a pilot for an actual Showtime TV show. I'm guessing that's what this is. I'm guessing the show will eventually not be a podcast, or the podcast version will be supplemental to the Showtime version of the show, kind of like what Brennan Schaub did when he first started with Showtime. I'm guessing it's going to be something along those lines, but yeah. Number 1, I'm disappointed that Danny Segura does not seem to be the producer. That's a big fuck up by everybody involved. And number 2, I'm kind of bummed that they're limiting the number of times they can use bad words when we're all fucking adults. And by the way, Showtime is not basic cable, so it doesn't matter. Plus, it's not even on Showtime; it's on fucking YouTube. So, yeah, frustrating.
Can you imagine? It would be a great challenge for me and you because we clearly. Or you would say speak like sailors or does not.
Oh yeah, no, we're on the absolute other. The only people further on this side of the spectrum is Doug Stanhope and
it would be a challenge for me and I know we can do it. Like it's doable. Say next episode, right? We keep it PG-13. Say no F words. Yeah, I feel like that's easy. We can do it.
Sure, it'd be a bad show though.
It wouldn't be as colorful, right? Or descriptive,
also, that's the kind of shit that would make me come back to my classic.
Oh, it would just be us just drinking more. That's what that would lead to. Yeah. And then also, so say if someone challenged us right now, okay, Sound of Violence, your next episode is PG. So the worst thing you could say is hell or damn or ass.
I'd tell them to go fuck themselves.
I mean, that's it.
Doesn't matter who it is.
Do it?
To be my mother, I'd tell her to go fuck herself.
I'll say this. Can we do it? Yes. Do we want to? No. Will we do it? Pay me.
No.
Pay me.
I'll tell you right now. There's no amount of money you can pay me to not swear on this fucking show.
That's not true. Come on, dude. Money talks.
Yeah, dog. And guess what? I ain't Bob, bro.
I like your loyalty.
You know what? Pay me $1 million up front, and I'll try not to swear. We'll pull that game. And then when I swear throughout the episode,
you're not swearing is this. Look, all right, Chris, what's your catch?
Well,
I thought
fucking. I'll tell you what, it's fucking
No.
not. The idiot that paid me $1 million and I'll fucking swear on my own fucking show.
No. It wouldn't be that. It'd be literally reading. So my favorite freaking show is, and you're like, fuck this, and you just like rip that shit up. That's it.
Yeah, no, there's no amount of money you could pay me to not swear on a goddamn podcast because that's a bad podcast. You're paying me to make a bad podcast. That's what you're choosing to do.
What I'm gonna do now for our next segment, just for fun, I'm gonna try to not swear naturally. It's like, and then it's not gonna go out. Like I'm obviously.
Yeah, good luck with some of those fucking fights not swearing because there's a couple of those that.
Yeah. Anyways, speaking of swearing, since apparently I'm about to piss my pants. Right?
So why don't you mute your mic and go take a piss, and I will talk about Fight Court with King Mo, which is my other new show for this week.
That works. I will be right back.
I would definitely mute your mic though, just to be safe. There you go. He actually did it. Unlike last week. So Fight Court with King Mo is my other new show for this week. It's pretty straightforward. It's a debate show that TJ DeSantis has on the Between Rounds Patreon. King Mo and TJ, essentially it's just a debate style show where TJ brings a topic and they debate kind of the qualities of that topic. So for example, in this first episode, they talked about goats and what defines a goat in combat sports. Stuff like, and King Mo is interesting because King Mo is such a fucking combat sports fan across all genres that he has really interesting ideas about what actually qualifies. Like for example, he some of the things he mentioned is a big definitive statement on whether someone's a goat is someone like Sugar Ray Robinson, where after you see them fight, multiple fighters then emulate their style because of how effective it is. So you use Sugar Ray Robinson, I believe, as the OG of like people like Floyd and Sugar Ray Leonard and all the guys who would fight with the lead hand down and tucked behind their shoulder with the lead side, and just kind of slip and pop shot. And it's interesting to hear King Mo's takes on that kind of stuff. He also made a pretty crazy comparison between Bret Hart and GSP in how similar they are and how similar if you look into it, there are some real similarities between them. Some are kind of vague and could apply to a lot of people. Some are pretty specific and are pretty actually solid comparisons. So I thought that was pretty cool. They also talk a lot about some of the great Brazilians like Silva and Aldo and how they inspired multiple people like John Jones and Johnny Walker, or in Aldo's case, just being like such a well-rounded bad motherfucker where a lot of his game, people would sleep on how fucking solid his grappling game was, including his takedowns. It's just really interesting to hear them talk about that. They also talk a bit about how rivals build legacies and that sort of thing. So I think the runtime was like 35 minutes or so. And that's their first episode, but it's really interesting. And I think it could be something that grows into something pretty cool. Because King Mo, I really like hearing King Mo's opinions on this stuff. And King Mo's the kind of dude who's watched so much combat sports for so long that he'll name drop people where you're like, oh shit. Like, it's been a while since I thought about fucking Maurice Smith head kicking fucking Mark Coleman or old Pete Cell fights and weird shit like that. So I really like King Mo in general, and I think it's gonna be pretty fucking cool to see how that show grows going forward. So let's see some of the other shows that I had that are also rans or honorable mentions. Co-Main Event Podcast episode 363 was real solid. Talk about Roadhouse being a bad movie because they also do a Roadhouse commentary, which shouts out to CME. I actually got compliments on my Cowboy Astronaut Cigarettes t-shirt today, which how could you not? It's so dope. They also talk a bit about Ryan Hall just being dope in general and Czech Congo getting a title shot. Very funny Master Tweet Theater. They talk about Nigel's wedding. Pretty good. Heavy Hands episode 272 was real solid. They talk about last week's card being surprisingly fun and do some breakdowns for stuff like Edwards versus RDA and Hooker versus Vic. They also mentioned that Team Alpha Male, they heard that the game planning for Elkins was to do what Gray Maynard did to Ryan Hall, and the game planning for Emmett was to do what Bektik did to that dude. Which Alpha Male's game planning is really fucking sketchy at this point. Also, Phil McKenzie at one point does call Josh Emmett. I think he says, "Josh Emmett, I still hate you. You still look like a poorly rendered Blade 2 villain," which is very solid from Heavy Hands.
That is
yeah.
Fun. And I listened to Heavy Hands. I didn't listen to all of it, but that's probably one of the fact you said that is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And they're called the Reavers in Blade 2. And now dude, it's Cormac.
Yeah.
Or Korvac or some shit.
Something like that. Episode 272.
That is like they always have like those nerdy fucking references. But anyone even remotely into just like not even nerdy shit because everyone's seen Blade. That's fucking just hilarious.
I mean, it is the podcast that brings you the Jan of Rivera fucking references. Or no, it's Geralt from Rivia? Jan of Rivia.
Jan, that makes sense.
Jan of Rivera. Fucking Jimmy of Rivera.
Yeah, shout out to Netflix too,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
A lot of money on that.
If I Did It was really solid.
Yep.
Just overall very solid. Eugene says you can I believe the first question was, you're Connor, do you take a fight with Masvidal? And Eugene says yes, you do anything you can to make people forget about 2 words: anal rape.
Yeah,
which is fucking goddamn. I love Eugene. Also, another topic was, you're the sexy and sophisticated Herb Dean, how do you handle the bad PR from another questionable stoppage? And Brendan Schaub joined the Lost Battalion, which was rough.
Brendan Schablonian.
Yeah, I believe the quote was, "It's not applause, it's the sound of wood being chopped. It's not stage smoke, it's mist." It's fucking savage, but very good. Severe MMA episode 218 was really solid. They talk about the bad stoppages in the main and co-main event. Talk about thinking Sinead Kavanaugh got the win over Leslie Smith, and they previewed the UFC card. Real quick with Mike Swick, episode 50 was really solid. Luis Pena Skyped in to talk about Bryce Mitchell getting into MMA and hitting it off with the AKA guys. He also mentioned they had a beer pong tournament in the Tough House when they announced the semifinals, which I thought was pretty solid. Beatdown after the bell, UFC Sacramento had TJ, Micah Miller, and King Mo on it. So it was essentially like a ATT radio episode, and that was pretty fun. Also, King Mo used the phrase, this was almost a clip this week. TJ said something along the lines of, yeah, I just don't understand why fans don't respect Ryan Hall's style. Or I don't understand why they don't like Ryan Hall's style. And King Mo says the phrase, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something along the lines of, I don't think the fans will ever appreciate anything, to be honest. Which is pretty great. MMA on the Rocks episode 149 was very solid. They talk about Bill's episode from last Friday with Billy Quarantillo, and they also talk about Scotch Month, since evidently somebody told Bill that he doesn't know about Scotch, so he devoted an entire month of episodes to talking about Scotch. He also mentioned, which, by the way, everyone go tell Bill he doesn't know anything about absinthe, so we can hear that dude try and drink absinthe for 4 weeks straight on the podcast, because that'd be a lot of fun. But it's a solid episode overall. Slip and Dip, episode 106 we talked about. Fights Gone By, episode 152 was really solid. They talk about the, I forget the dude's name, but the guy in China who's beating up all the Kung Fu masters.
Oh,
and
bless you. God, you know what? God bless you, my friend. I won't go that far. That guy is fucking badass.
Yeah, that guy's great. And they also talk about how... Yeah.
That's like, he goes up to Yip Man. He's like, fuck your Wing Chun, you stupid fuck.
Yep.
Just double legs him to death.
Dude, most of the time he's not even wrestling dudes. He's just fucking them up on the feet. It's great.
I had to explain that to someone at my fucking job. And we're like, hey, Chris, I heard you like MMA. What do you think? And the guy was in it. He's like, what do you think about that? And I'm like, I'm not going to, like, dude, you really want me to just talk to you for like 30 minutes about this shit? I'm like, no.
Pretty great.
I don't have the patience.
Yeah, Jack also mentioned that episode that China is banning tattoos in MMA and how
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. That's it.
Well, yeah, especially with fucking I think one has a card in China this weekend, so good luck with that. And then he talks about Ryan Hall's evolution and why flopping guard should totally always be allowed and is a viable option. Between rounds, behind the paywall was really solid. Andre Feely calls in as the mystery guest, and Jeff Sherwood does eventually guest it. And later on, TJ is an interview with Sarah Coughlin, but super solid. Projecting 38. Quick recap of Bellator Contender Series. Dan Tom points out how Ariel was constantly burying JDR, but then this week mentioning like, "Oh, I don't know why people don't like JDR." So, motherfucker, on your own nose for like the last couple of years, shitting on her, but okay. And Dan Tom also shits on EA Plus for editing curse words, which is a great point. Because what the fuck are we even doing? We're all goddamn adults watching fistfights. Our MMA show, or our MMA show, I should say, UFC Sacramento recap, as well as the UFC San Antonio preview episodes were really solid. They also, at one point during the UFC San Antonio preview, do joke about having similar sounding voices. So I'm glad it's not just me and Judo Bill and everybody that's having problems. And then the last one I wanted to mention, Eddie Mercado didn't. Oh boy, Chris, I hope we don't actually end up doing this movie. But Eddie Mercado did an interview with Claudia Myers, who is the director of Above the Shadows, an MMA movie that has Tito Ortiz in it, and it sounds good.
Yeah, I just did a lot of sorry for the sighing, but I saw.
Yeah. Well, I believe a direct quote from the interview is Tito was Tito, which is very fucking good. So,
shouts out real quick to co-main event. Yeah, I know you probably talked
I did. I talked a little bit about CME. It was really solid.
Tito's quote about what was it, immigration? I don't know what the fuck that dude.
Oh my god, yeah. Tito's out of his goddamn mind. Oh, all right, cool. Well, do you have any other or honorable mentions you wanted to shout out?
Yeah. Let's see. I think you mentioned them, but yeah, Fights Gone By, Care Don't Care, If I Did It. Already talked about Co-Main, Heavy Hands we talked about.
Yeah, I think it sounds like we got them.
That's about it, yeah.
Cool. Well, we will go ahead and wrap this segment here, and then we will be back here in a minute to break down the UFC San Antonio card, which is actually a lot of fucking fun. It's actually a really solid card.
A lot of good fights.
Absolutely. So we will be right back. But until then, listen to this hilarious clip of the Monday Morning Combat editing themselves and sounding like fucking middle schoolers. So we'll be right back. If you're listening to the podcast version of the show, of course, all the links to everything we're talking about is in the description. So we'll be right back.